start the recording for me and let me know when the recording's been started.
Let's go. We're ready.
Hello and welcome to our ready? Okay. Hello and welcome to our webinar today. This is Paul Hoyt, your host, inviting you to attend our office hours presentation. And grateful that you are here. Our office hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. All our recording slides and exercises are archived in our members area, and the recordings are available on the YouTube channel, at least for now, at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do these office hours presentations is that we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need education, you need training, you need tools and team to be successful, and we want you to get to know us. Because when you know us, you'll know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to succeed in every area of life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we try to do. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. If you find these office hours presentations beneficial to you, please pass the word. We're happy to share in our knowledge and our wisdom with anybody who shows up to these presentations, and we love to have large audiences. So please pass the word and let people know what's available to them for free on paulhoyt.com. Our office hours agenda is usually an in-depth discussion of a business success principle of some kind. Then we offer some closing remarks, special offers, and an invitation for next week's session, and then we go into open Q&A and coaching. However, today it's all open Q&A and coaching, so we won't be talking about much except for a quick review of the two previous office hours presentations. We invite you to join us in the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where we do a business success principle of the day almost every day, and I do an energy of the day posting on Facebook every single morning, which I've done every morning for 983 days in a row. Today's topic is open Q&A and group coaching. As always, I try to relate the key performance areas of the day to the subject matter, and today it's wide open. So today you can ask a question about marketing, product development, operations administration, sales, financial management, customer service, or leadership. Anything that comes up to you, we are happy to address that discussion topic or answer that question for you. We also try to relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the performance that we define with the Awakened CEO system, and today it's about all three. You can ask questions about mindset, attitude, belief systems, visions, any of the inner game of business, or you can ask questions about methods and momentum, anything about the outer game of business, and we'll be happy to share what we can to help you move forward. And with that, that's a good introduction. Let's open it up to Q&A, and we'll take a look at the questions which have come about. We've had a few kind of email-in questions, and Stephanie may be able to see some other questions as they come about in the GoToMeeting panel. Stephanie, you might make that easier on yourself. You can just pause the screen, and then you can do whatever you want on your screen, because we're just going to hold it where it is for now.
Okay.
Again, for those of you who are just dialing in, I'm having some severe technical technical problems. My internet went down, so I am actually calling into the webinar today via cell phone, and we'll do what we can to answer your questions to go forward, because we did have a few come in via email. One of them was kind of a long question from a lovely lady, Andra Napoleon. I don't know if she's on the call yet or not today, but she sent me a lovely question via email about an experience that she had, at a recent conference with somebody who was not who they pretended to be. Stephanie, is Andra on the call today?
Yes, she is.
You want to see if she wants to come online and kind of talk about it? And I'm talking specifically about the correspondence we shared this morning on Facebook about somebody who showed up in her life who was not who they pretended to be.
Andrea, I did unmute you, but it looks like you've got yourself muted. If you want to unmute yourself, you can talk live with us right now. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All righty. Okay, I'm here. I'm excited. So, what can I, should I start or do you want to continue?
Andrew, go ahead and share with us a little bit of the dilemma or the challenge that you had recently with somebody showing up and being not who they said they were.
Well, I'm not exactly, because a lot of times people, they talk and I know this one, I know that one, and I could connect you to this, and it kind of actually happened in Freedom Fest, so as I'm talking, it always seems like he knows that person. He's lived next door to this person, or he could connect me. And what I want to know is I'm going to be connected to somebody's he's famous, but I'm going to be connected to his mom. I want to do that personally. I know I probably can do that by myself, but being that he said that he grew up with this person and lived next door, and supposedly the 3rd to the 5th we're going to be doing going to meet this person. Sorry, I've been up for like 2 days straight. So now he's all of a sudden saying, well, when I present myself to this famous person's mom, I want to say that we're partners. Like, this guy has never done anything for me. I just met him, and now he's already saying that he's my partner in my business. So what my question kind of is when somebody does something like that for you, what do you give them? Do you give them a finder's fee if that should happen, if what he's saying is true? Or, like, how does that work? Can you answer that? Like, how does that work? What am I obligated, or what should I give a person that sets me up to somebody that could connect me to the right person? How does that work?
I'm gonna invite you to go back on mute here for a little bit. I'll talk about that for a second, and then we'll come back to you. So that's an excellent question. How do we reward somebody who helps us move our business forward in some way? I actually did an office hours presentation on that, I guess a few months ago, on sharing the revenues. And in that presentation, we talked about the many ways that you have to share revenues with people depending upon the value that they bring to your company. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So commission salespeople will, depending upon the nature of their business, get anywhere from 1 to 30% of the revenue that they bring in for companies. I've worked for very large companies like Oracle and EDS, and it was very common in that environment for salespeople to have a pretty darn high base salary, like $80,000 to $100,000 a year, plus enjoying 1 to 1.25% or 1.5% of the commission of the revenues that they brought in. In those cases, those commission salespeople had like a $10 million quota. So if they were bringing in $10 million worth of service and having a 1.5% bonus or commission based on that, their total compensation package was around $250,000 to $300,000 a year. They also had accelerators built into those, and it wasn't unusual for a salesperson to have a $500,000 or a $750,000 a year, which of course is awesome for them. On the other hand, we see that if we have an affiliate relationship with somebody and we do a webinar and we make an offer in that webinar, that they may enjoy 50% of the revenue from that particular event or that particular webinar and the offer being closed. So I've seen those commissions go anywhere from 1% to 50%. And I've heard upon occasion that somebody realizes that there's such a tremendous upside in getting somebody to do business with you that they may give their referral partner 100% of the revenue, because they realize that once a person buys that initial thing for $200 or $300 or $400, or even a little bit more, that they're really likely to buy the package that's $5,000 or $10,000 or $30,000. So they'll give away a lot of that early revenue just to establish a customer relationship. So that it goes, I guess the summary of that is it really depends, and it can be all over the map about how you compensate somebody for giving you a lead or assisting with the business that is closed. So if you can actually track the business that is closed, in specific, here's a particular offer. We know when that business came to us by way of some action that you did, an email that you sent out, a posting on a web page, a seminar that we did together, etc. You may give them 5, 10, 20% of the revenue if it's service-related revenue and heavily labor-intensive, or upwards to 30, 40, 50% of the revenue if it's not a product or it is a digital product. So anytime that you have a service-related item where it's labor-intensive to actually deliver the service, or a product where there is a cost of goods sold associated with it, usually to make your business work, you pay less commission or share less of the revenue with somebody than you would if it's a digital product that's just downloaded and there's essentially no cost of goods sold. So I'd be happy to work with you in some coaching capacity to answer that question about what percentage of the revenue that you might share, but it will depend on what it costs you to deliver the service and what it costs you to deliver the products as to what percentage of that you might share. So let's explore a couple other things. Number one, what if you can't track it? What if it's kind of a brand awareness thing? What if you don't have a special offer that you can't track it? Then you might just give them some percentage of the increase in revenue that happens over the course of the next 6 months, understanding that some of that increase in revenue is related to their efforts, and a lot of the increase in revenue is related to other people's efforts as well. So you can offer them a percent of increase in general revenue if you're not able to track their activities specifically back to the benefit that your company has enjoyed. The third kind of implied question you had there is somebody calling themselves a partner. And that can be a trigger word for lots of people because calling yourself a partner has two different meanings. In one meaning, it can be saying that that is a legal partnership, and in another meaning, it can be saying that it's just an informal partnership. So I like to really qualify that word partner as saying they're an alliance partner of mine, or an affiliate partner of mine, or a marketing partner of mine, as opposed to just saying that they're a partner, because partner does have some sort of a legal implication into the business. So hopefully that was helpful to you, Andra, and you're able to, and that makes sense to you. Do you have any follow-up questions or any other discussion points that you might have? Are you there? Stephanie, are you there?
Yeah. It doesn't look like she has any more questions. Oh, there she is.
Oops.
No, what you said, it was very helpful. So let me ask you a question. Being that, like, I was talking about this person first, and I was doing this whole kind of presentation for this person, and just so happened miraculously that this person grew up next to this person. If I just go by myself without this person flying in from Georgia, and because I don't really know this person that is going to hook me up. I just met him, so I don't know if he's talking out of his butt or he is going to. I should just, I guess what I should just say, what I'm asking, should I just go forward to, and if he comes in before, like, I don't know, I don't know, like, if I should just go, like, without him coming, or should I just wait? I could be waiting forever.
Well, if you've got your own, and I trust that you can hear me, I'll tell you, my internet connection did come back up, so I'm switched over to a better connection.
You're great. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a real judgment call on your half. If you feel comfortable in pursuing that on your own, go for it. It might be that you have a 1-2 punch, that you pursue it on your own and see how far you get, and you might make a little progress there. You might make a lot of progress. If you don't make the progress that you really want, and then you see an advantage in his support, then you can go to him, and he could be kind of like a second wave and be like the second way that this person has heard of you, which, that's hearing from you in 2 or 3 or 4 different ways is better than just hearing from you in one way.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it really makes sense. I just don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm doing what I'm doing, and, I just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or
Well, that's up to them, by the way. And I really appreciate that kind of taking responsibility for other people's feelings attitude, but you can only take that so far in business. Your attitude, your mindset is your business and a very critical part of your business. The
Right.
inside game is but don't let somebody else put a guilt trip on you that says that, wait a minute, I offered to help you, and then you decided to turn me down. So, why are you hurting me? I mean, there are people out there that have that kind of attitude, right? That
Yeah.
they have this sense of entitlement, or this sense of this victim energy that I call it, that you're abusing me, you're punishing me in some way, you're keeping me trapped in some way because you didn't do what I asked you to do. And nothing can be further from the truth. If somebody asks you for a favor, or somebody invites you to explore an idea or a business opportunity, it's well within your capability to turn them down and say, no, simply that doesn't work for me right now, or let's put that on hold. We might come back to that a little bit later. But boy, the second they try to launch a guilt trip on you for you not doing or actually giving them a favor in the way that they has asked for that favor, that's the time to run away from that relationship.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just don't go there.
Okay.
Okay? Awesome. Well, I hope that helps you a bit too. So thank you very much for that question. I'm going to move on to one or other questions, and actually, I'm going to see if I can't make myself the presenter on the screen here and show my screen. I don't know, Stephanie, can you see my screen okay now?
Yep, we can.
Awesome, and I trust that you're still doing the recording, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So now do you see that, I'm going to move forward, do you see the previous office hours screen?
Yeah, you need to make it
Awesome.
full screen, though.
Oh, hang on now, what?
Make it full screen?
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong screen. Let me move over and share my other screen. That's what I was concerned with, is that making sure that you were looking at the right screen. Now you're looking at the right screen.
There we go. Beautiful.
Awesome. So pardon that brief interruption for those of you who are just coming into the call today. I had severe internet problems and I wasn't able to actually be on the internet for the first 5 minutes of the call. We usually review the last couple of office hours presentations before we go into live group coaching, and I want to take just a minute to do that because there have been a couple of them since our live group coaching session. Office Hours 126 was on the book Leading Change, The Keys to Transforming Your Business, and Office Hours 127 was on the book Crossing the Chasm, by my title, The Keys to Massive Market Acceptance. So Leading Change, we talked about several different things. We talked about the author, John Cotter, who has a PhD in business from Harvard and is a professor at Harvard. We talked about change management and his 8-step change model that he introduced in the book Leading Change, and then summed it up to the bottom line. Real quickly, change management is a systematic approach to dealing with change both from the perspective of the organization and the individual, and it has different aspects to it. It's adapting to change, controlling the change, and effecting the change. And you need to understand that because change is real important. There is a direct correlation between managing change and the success of a business. And managing change, just dealing with change in a reactive manner, really isn't enough. You need to be proactive at change, and that's almost the very definition of leadership, is we decide where the company needs to go, and we find a way to take the company there, and that requires being really good at change. As Heraclitus used to say, change is the only constant. And in a book that I reviewed in an office hours presentation a few months ago, you really do have to change or die. If you insist on doing business the same way today that you did 5 years ago, or the same way 5 years from now that you are today, you are not going to survive at all, because change is forced upon us in business by external situations, and we have opportunities that are presented to us to improve our business, to grow our business through our own efforts. That's the deal. We want to survive, we want to grow, and that requires change. His 8-step model, real quickly, was about establishing a sense of urgency, creating a guiding coalition, which means getting the right team in place, working with your team to develop a vision and strategy, and then communicating that effectively to everybody who's going to be impacted by the change, empowering your employees and the people who are on the change team to have their say in it so that they can take action at their levels in a way that's consistent with the long-term goals. We generate short-term wins so everybody has a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of success. We consolidate those gains and produce even more change, and then anchor the approaches in the new culture, which can be as simple as burning the bridges behind us or deinstalling the old system. Not giving people the opportunity to go backwards is key to that 8-step model. In the next office hours presentation, it was about crossing the chasm. Crossing the chasm, we talked about the author Jeffrey Moore, who is, got a PhD in like economics, I believe, or history, I think it was, but turned out to be a very bright and capable guy, and really realized that there was an issue with the technology adoption curve, and figured out where the chasm is, and wrote an entire book, and actually created a kind of a movement around how we cross the chasm. And we talked about those things. The first thing we talked about was the technology adoption curve, in that, at different stages in your technology's release to the marketplace, you have different mindsets of the people who buy your product. At first, it's the innovators who really want to be the first kid on the block or the only kid on the block with the new technology. Then there's the early adopters who don't really want to be first, but they want to be second or third. They want to be cool. Then the early majority who don't want to be first, second, or third. They really want to move forward only when it's safe. The late majority only move forward when they have to, and the laggards, only move forward when there's absolutely no choice at all. And what that means is that when your total sales for the product that you have happen, that 50% of the people will have the attitude of an innovator, an early adopter, or an early majority, and the other 50% are going to have the attitudes of the late majority and the laggards, and that means that you have to change all of your marketing messages and change the way that you approach the market to appeal to the different mindsets of these different market segments. What he noticed was that with technology companies, there was a huge gap, that getting in between the psychology of the innovators with the early adopters into the early majority was really difficult. And many, many technology companies failed because they were never able to cross that gap that's caused by the hype cycle. There was this peak of inflated expectation, but then when people figured out what it was really all about, they fell into the trough of disillusionment, and it took a while for them to climb back out into the slope of enlightenment, and back to where you can actually reach the last 3/4 or 2/3 of the marketplace. Now, what that means is that this hype cycle, where you people have inflated expectations and then their expectations go down, really is what causing this gap. And he presented many, many different ways, and I shared some of them in the office hours presentation as how you close that gap. So I wanted to share that with you real quickly to see if that would fuel any questions or any thoughts around those two last office hours presentations I did on Leading Change, a wonderful business book by John Cotter, and Crossing the Chasm, another wonderful business book by Jeffrey Moore. So with that, let's go back into the Q&A now that we're back online and doing what we normally do, and see if we have any other questions from our audience, or I know we've had some other written in questions too. Stephanie, any questions for us today?
Yes, we do. Let's see. One of my clients just isn't responding to my emails and phone calls. What should I do?
Well, I think, pardon me if this sounds morbid, check to see if they're still with us. You kind of, do a little triangulation there and see if somebody that you know is in fact in the process of communicating with them and they're not having some severe challenges, because that has happened to me before. Somebody just went dark and come to find out a week later or 2 weeks later that they had gone into the hospital and were having severe problems. And honestly, in those days, I thought that, man, this is kind of pissing me off. This guy's not replying to me, and it turned out to be that they were having health issues. So that's always the first step. Verify that their response to you is by choice, or lack of response is by choice, as opposed to by circumstance. The second thing is, if you can verify that they're still alive and still functioning in business and still posting on Facebook and LinkedIn and still sending out emails to the newsletter list and that sort of stuff, then we have a different issue. And that different issue is that they have a weakness and that they're not willing to talk to you about things that are troubling them. The things that may be troubling them could be that you unintentionally or intentionally dissed them in some way and they don't want to confront you about it. If they're a client of yours, maybe they need to fire you for whatever reason because of something you have done or something that you haven't done. Maybe they've run out of money and they don't want to have that "I've run out of money" conversation with you. Maybe there's something else going on, but there are people out there that are just, in the moment, they don't have the strength necessary to have that tough conversation. They don't know how to have that tough conversation with you. They don't know how to go into any one of different patterns of structured conversation that they could have. And I did an office hours presentation on structured conversations at some point in time that you're able to look up. But they don't know how to have that conversation with you. And if you find that that's the case, I think the best thing to do is just wish them well, maybe send them one final email or voicemail and let them know that, hey, you understand that when they're ready to have that conversation with you, you're happy and open to reach back out. Now, I would say that if they owe you a lot of money, then that's a different situation, that you may choose to turn that over to a collection agency. You may choose to have your attorney send them a letter, depending on what the amount of the money is, or you may just choose to let it go. I have been in a situation to where I don't think I've ever sued anybody, but depending upon your circumstance, that might be exactly the right thing for you to do to take care of yourself and to take care of your family. So all of those different things can apply. First, verify that they're still with us and still active. Second, see what assume that it's their challenge and that they're not able to have tough conversations. Invite that conversation with them in some way, either once again through your own emails or through a third party, and then decide whether or not you want to pursue legal action if they owe you money or whether you just want to let it go. Hopefully that was helpful too. Stephanie, anything to add, or next question?
Yes, let's go on to the next question. I think you handled that beautifully. I want to start a fund to get people to invest with me, and how do I get started?
Wow. Well, I think the first step is to understand that having a fund has a whole different set of regulations and legal requirements than just raising capital for a single business enterprise. So I know, for example, that the difference in between raising capital to purchase a single office building and raising capital to create a fund that will purchase property which has yet to be defined is a pretty big difference. That there are lots of laws around having a blind real estate investment pool, for example, or a real estate investment trust than there is when you're raising capital for a single enterprise. And I've had clients before set up funds. I've had clients before placement memorandums and get 10 or 20 or 30 investors to to say that give me your money and I will invest it appropriately and give you a substantial return. One of those persons who was a previous client of mine is now in jail because they made some really bad choices and pissed off some of their investors, and the Securities and Exchange Commission came in and said, you know, you were creating a fund and you were doing it in such a way that was against the regulations for funds, and they found him guilty of a whole bunch of stuff, and he went to jail. I don't know if he's still there or not, but he certainly was for some period of time. So my best advice to you is, if you're going to start a fund, if you want to raise money and it's not for a specific company or a specific project like a real estate office building or an apartment complex or a strip mall or something, then you've got to get an attorney on your team who really, really understands the laws around raising funds, because it's dramatically different than if you're raising money for a private enterprise. And I don't have a lot of experience there. My only experience was helping out that one client in just a very small way, you know, and just so you'll know, you know, I helped him out a little bit. I lost track of him for 6 or 12 months, and then found out 12 or 18 months later what he was actually doing, and the implications of that, and the reward that he got for his transgressions. So that causes me a big red flag when anybody says they want to start a fund. They go, oh my gosh, make sure that you get a really competent attorney on your team who can help you do it in a way that keeps you out of jail. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that question. Mm-hmm. Stephanie, any other comments or question from your own, please?
It's interesting, you know, you said check with a lawyer, and the first thing that I was thinking of is, heck, check with 2, check with 3.
Yeah,
because it takes just that word, you know, fund takes something that could be simple and turn it into a very complex and highly sophisticated process. So absolutely, you got to have the right people on your team that you can trust, and that's a big one, that trust with those kind of attorneys. So,
amen. Good comment.
Next one. I want to expand my manufacturing plant, but am uncertain what steps to take. Should I get the business first or get the capacity first? Interesting.
That is a good question, and I think it really depends on how much it costs you to get the extra capacity. You know, for example, if you're running, if you've got 4 or 5 different machines or work centers in your manufacturing process, and you find that one of them is being a bottleneck, then, you know, whether or not you relieve that single bottleneck depends a lot on how much it's going to cost you to do so. So, for example, if you have a work center that's got, you know, 3 machines in it today, and you can add a 4th machine to that at a reasonable cost, and you don't have to train anybody else, that your current team can handle 4 machines, or you can bring on somebody and ramp from 3 to 4 machines in that work center, and, you know, increase your capacity by 25%, or actually in that case by 33%. By doing so, that might be exactly the right thing to do, depending upon the cost of the machine. If, on the other hand, you have one of your work centers that is as a very expensive piece of machinery, something that's going to cost you tens of thousands or hundreds of $1,000s to do, you may really want to make sure that you have the sales first, or the business first, before you invest that amount of money. What people oftentimes do in the interim is they outsource one or more phases of their operation. So you may, you know, do the first 3 steps to the manufacturing process in-house, and then send it to a jobber across the city, you know, put it in a truck and send it over there and bring it back a few days later, and increase your capacity through outsourced services, through overflow services. That's really common in larger manufacturing shops, is that they don't make everything in-house, and they outsource some of the functions. They'll send something out to get it chromed, or they'll send something out to get it painted, or they'll send something out to get some portion of the final assembly done, and then bring it back in-house and complete the manufacturing process in-house. They'll have overflow shops for machining. You know, they'll take 15 or 20 widgets and send them over to the machine shop across town and have them do the machining on it and then bring it back in. So think about that. I would say as a first step, would analyze the capacity of all of the work centers that I have and understand where the bottleneck is today and where the bottleneck is likely to be tomorrow. So back to that analogy where you've had like 4 work centers and the third one is a very expensive machine. If work center 2 has only 10% reserve capacity, then doubling the capacity of work center 3 isn't going to help you, because you're immediately going to move the bottleneck from work center 3 to work center 2. So before you make decisions about how to increase the capacity of an individual work center, make sure that you're looking at the entire system and understand that perhaps it won't do you any good to double the capacity of work center 3, because work center 2 then becomes the immediately new bottleneck, and then it moves to work center 1, and then, oh, by the way, we can't hire enough employees to actually run the new machines that we have in stock, or we're not able to get the raw materials necessary in order to produce the double capacity. As it turns out, the capacity through your manufacturing plant depends upon the availability of all the raw materials, depends on the availability of your staff, of your team, depends upon the workspace that you have, your actual facilities, depends upon the production capacity of the individual machines, depends in some way upon the ability of your management team to actually manage a higher process, may depend upon the size of your shipping dock, the number of machines that you have, the number of trucks that you have, etc. So you have to analyze the complete flow. One of my favorite office hours presentations that I did was on a book called The Goal, G-O-A-L, by Elihu Goldratt. Very famous book because it was a business novel. In the book, he actually told the story of a guy named, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but I remember his mentor's name was Jonah. And anyway, so he told the story of how he learned great principles in manufacturing about the theory of constraints and how you increase the capacity of systems in the context of a novel. So I encourage you to look up that office hours presentation and listen to that as you think about growing your manufacturing plant. But it isn't easy. You have to analyze throughput through all of the different aspects of the manufacturing plant in order to make sure that you are expanding your capacity wisely and not investing money in a way that really doesn't do you any good. So that was pretty good. I love that question. Stephanie.
That was awesome.
Any other comments or questions or additional comments on that? Or next question.
I was just thinking while you were speaking on how critical it is for us as the leadership team to make sure that we understand the whole big picture, where we are and where we want to go at all times, because so many of the decisions that we do or that we make on a day-to-day basis are such a part of that vision, and keeping that vision and knowing, what's the plan, exactly what the plan is just so critical.
Awesome. I'm going to take just a second or two and share a few more words about who we are and what we do here at Hoyt Management Group. Then we're going to go back and answer a few more questions. Here at our company, we really believe on focusing on the whole person. We really believe on supporting your inside game and your outside game and giving you the support that you really need at a price that you can afford. We are a planning and execution firm with a heavy emphasis on execution, because we know that your success in business is really all about the execution. We love helping you create plans. We love helping you gather resources. But we know that 97% of your success is about doing the work day after day after day. So in addition to being a planning firm, we also support you in the execution of the plans that we help you create. And we're very excited for the opportunity to talk to you about what you want to accomplish in the next 90 days or so and see how we can best help you and support you in doing the things that you really want to do. Our next office hours will be next Monday, August the 8th. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet. I got some good ideas. But if you have some ideas about subjects that you'd like for me to do a presentation on, please let us know by going to paulssurvey.com and filling in the brief survey that you have there. So with that, let's open it back up to questions or discussion topics that you would like to see. So go for it.
Okay, next
Stephanie,
question. Yep. I am confused over who I should hire next. How can I decide?
I think the best way to decide who you're going to hire next is decide what you want to accomplish next. So be very, very clear on what you want to accomplish in the next 90 days, and then hire contractors and or employees that specifically help you meet those goals. Unless you've got a lot of money. Now, if you've got a lot of money and you're in startup mode and you're not really, really focused on conserving cash flow at this point in time, that's the time to where you might want to look out and say, I really would like a partner in my business, or I would like to bring this expertise in my business just to kind of work on the foundation of the business a little bit. But generally speaking, I'm a strong believer in focusing on the next 3 to 5 goals that you have and going after those and bringing in the resources necessary to make that happen, while at the same time you're building the foundation of your business for tomorrow's success. What you really can't do, or rather a mistake that I've seen many people do, is that they focus so much time and effort on building their foundation and building their capacity that they don't get out there and actually get the job done, that they never engage with the marketplace, that they don't release products to the market, that they don't have revenue goals or profit goals, and they end up spending a tremendous amount of money preparing for growth instead of spending time and attention actually growing the business themselves. So it is a careful balance of focusing time and attention and resources on achieving the goals at hand, and at the same time building the foundation for your business to prepare for even greater success and greater goal achievement for tomorrow. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Stephanie, a comment from you or another question, please?
It always comes down to the plan, doesn't it? Okay. Next question. Ooh, I love this one. My attorney was so slow, and then he delivered the PPM that was full of errors. And while I was waiting for him, several investors lost interest. His poor service may have cost me $500,000. What can I do now?
Wow. Well, if it weren't noontime, I would suggest a beer, but or some other way of relieving the stress and tension that comes with that. That the truth is that I've heard this story more than once, and it always kind of riles me a little bit when people who are competent professionals or who present themselves as competent professionals just fail to do the work in a professional manner. My unfortunate experience with attorneys is that there are some really, really great attorneys out there, but there are other attorneys that are not so great. I've seen my fair share of contracts and private placement memorandums and other deliverables from attorneys that were riddled with typos and had other companies' names in them, and they were just, it was clear that there was no attention to detail and no really focus on quality. So first of all, you're not the first person to have that kind of experience with an attorney. What you do about it is, first of all, suck up your courage and have a great conversation with that attorney and let them know that you're very disappointed in the quality of the work that they've provided. You can demand some sort of a refund or a discount on services or some sort of a settlement on what you might owe them. And if you don't achieve some sort of reasonable settlement, if they're a member of a larger firm, you can always go to the general counsel of the firm or the managing partner of the firm. If it's a single person firm and you have no recourse, then it's really a tough choice to make. You may have a conversation with another attorney about whether to file a complaint with the Bar Association or whether to somehow accuse them of malpractice. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do to make you're not powerless, when it comes to dealing with attorneys. But I would do it in a way that's legal, because they certainly know what the legal way is. So you don't want to go onto Facebook and start slamming them and defaming their character, because that's not a legal thing to do. You don't want to pull something that says that we're going to take this battle to the public right away before you've explored your other opportunities to do that. But it is a sad truth that professionals, don't always deliver. I'm going to answer that question a slightly different way now too, and that is always make sure that you get references and you check people out. One of the great surprises in life for me is that not everybody is who they pretend to be. That I am easily fooled by seeing people in the way that they want to be seen instead of seeing people for who they really are. That has been a challenge of my life. It may be a challenge in your life too, that I have a tendency to believe people. I have a tendency to trust people. I have a tendency to see people in the way that they want to be seen, as opposed to seeing who they really are. And for that reason, I always check references. If you're coming to work with me or for me in any way, I'm checking your references. If I'm developing an alliance partnership with you or considering hiring you, I'm checking your references. And that's the way that I have learned to accommodate for or mitigate the risk associated with my somewhat naive and innocent trust of other people. You may find yourself to have that same sort of a feature. And by the way, trusting people willingly and believing in people and seeing the greatness in people is not a bad thing. It just can get in your way of doing effective business if you're not humble enough to realize that you can be duped and you can be fooled because of your willingness to trust and see the greatness in other people. So do what I do, which is always trust the references of others as opposed to always completely trusting yourself. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Mm-hmm. Stephanie, any comments or another question or two?
Another question. Mm-hmm. I think this is our last one so far. I want to raise money to start my business. How do I get started?
Carefully. If you want to raise money to start your business, what you really need to start off with is some idea about how much money you will need to raise or want to raise, what you're going to use it for, what your use of proceeds are, and whether or not you can do this with your own capital. So when somebody says to me and says, I want to raise money to start my business, my first response back to them, are you sure that you want to raise money? Is there any way that you can start this business through your own proceeds or your co-founder's proceeds? Because it's going to be a lot easier. Actually, raising money is tough, and especially if you want to raise a lot of money. I did a presentation a few months ago on the 6 stages of raising capital that I strongly recommend that you watch so that you can see my perspective on what it takes to raise capital and be successful in raising capital, because there is a very long learning curve. It is a very expensive process, and it does take you a long time to do that unless you're raising a small amount of capital. Big difference in between I need $5,000 to get started and I need $500,000 to get started. So the first thing is to figure out how much capital that you need by understanding the size of business that you want to create and the requirements of the capitalization of that business. And by the way, of course, we're happy to work with you to help you define the business that you're creating and help you develop those early stage growth plans and develop that budget that will show you how much money that you really need to raise and then coach you through that process. But I guess that's the first 2 answers to that. Number 1, don't do it unless you have to. Number 2, do it carefully and with the advice of others that you can trust who can help you think through the steps and pursue it in a way that will make a difference to your success. That's it. Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay, yes, got it.
I'm looking at the questions here. I'm sorry.
Okay. Right.
We got another question about crossing the chasm. And I was chatting with one of our clients about this. You know, there's we had chatted about fake it till you make it. And we also, we're chatting about things don't have to be perfect before you move forward for some things, obviously. So I wondered if you could chat a little bit more about that. The fake it till you make it approach.
I think that I'm gonna answer that in a very interesting way. So we always talk about the inside game and the outside game of business, right? Your mindset, your belief, your perspective, your attitude as being really, really important to your success in business. But the outer game, the methods, the plans, the processes, procedures, taking action, doing the actual work is equally or even more so important to business. You have to have a careful balance of the two. So I'm going to suggest to you that it's okay to imagine and to believe that you are the success that you want to become in advance of actually having that success. So you can feel like a champion, have the mindset of a champion, have the belief in yourself as a champion, as if you have already achieved that success, and in that way, fake it until you make it. Where it crosses the line is when you pretend to be something that you aren't, that you pretend to have 10 offices when you only have one, that you pretend to have a large staff when you don't have any, that you pretend that you've done this particular thing, a half a dozen times when you've never done it at all. At some point in time, that fake it until you make it, especially when it starts crossing the line into the real physical world, that it becomes deception, that it becomes out of integrity, that it goes in conflict with your authenticity, and it gets in your way of the success. Far better to believe that you are a masterpiece, that you are extremely competent and capable, but honest to people about your experience so far. I know that I can do that. I haven't done that particular thing yet, but I am 100% confident I can do that for you. I'd appreciate the opportunity, and I will guarantee the results that I have. Being honest about where you are in business and in the growth of your business is really, really important. I think it becomes counterproductive to fake it when you make it when you start pretending to be somebody that you aren't, as opposed to having the attitude of success in advance of that success. I'm not sure hopefully that answered the question in the way that you wanted to. Stephanie, I suspect that you've got a little discussion to say over that. But that's where it crosses the line for me. When I find out that somebody is being deceptive in any way, then their attitude, their positive attitude towards their own capability is completely overridden by the deception that they have perpetrated upon me. And I don't like that at all. Stephanie, over to you.
That's beautiful. Beautiful response.
Awesome. Thank you. It's 12:58. We got time for another question or two.
Excuse me. That's all we've got so far here today.
All right. Awesome. Well, then with that, we will call it a day here and let people know how much we really appreciate you tuning into these live group coaching sessions. Next week, we'll do a presentation on a subject, could be exactly the subject that you would like for us to present on. All you have to do is go to paulsurvey.com and let us know what it is that you'd like for us to talk on. And if there's anything that we can do to help you move forward in your business, to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish, to help you get the education and the training and support that you need to achieve the top 3 to 5 goals that you're focused on over the next 3 to 5 years, 35 to 5 months rather, we really would appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about that. And until we see you again next week, this is Paul Hoyt and Stephanie May wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.